It was a different time, a time of destiny, a time when a child could tip the balance between good and evil, a time for an unlikely hero named WILLOW.
Ah, the secret baby that will save our kingdom. I've got to give this baby to someone.
What is wrong with you? You just tricked a baby.
But it's destiny.
I'll give you destiny right after I save this baby and claim the kingdom for myself. Wait, what?
From the creator of Star Wars and the director of Cocoon, it's Loop and Larry and a movie about Willow. In a world filled with intergalactic space battles, metahuman destruction on a global scale, and psychopathic serial hauntings, there's only one team who can make sense of it all. When your world is overrun with rampant pop culture, call Loop and Larry, Guardians of Geek.
All right! Ow!
Yeah. Explosion. The 40th. This is the 40th time we've had that explosion. 40 times.
40th episode, Loop and Larry, Guardians of the Geek, I like to call it now, of the Geek. Of one geek. I'm Loop.
And I'm Larry.
And we don't know what we're talking about anymore.
No,
we just at 40, it's like when you turn 40, you just don't care anymore.
We're just meatballing our way through it from now on. That's what we're doing.
So Larry, how's it going?
Oh, things are great. Things are picking up. The world's a happy place. There's lots going on. Things are great. Things are good. How about you? What's happening over there?
Not much.
Loop
There seems to be a little more levity now that there's a new president, and just some change is always good, right? So
it is.
So what are we watching? There's lots going on on this show. We've got tons we got our pop 5, we've got our capacitor, and we've got just some things that are just some shows that are going on, including some things that are behind us right now. So let's start with something that's not behind either of us. Let's start with a show that we both love called Servant.
Yes. So this is the M. Night Shyamalan that runs on Apple TV Plus. So if you have Apple TV Plus, you have access to it, but that's the only place you can get it right now. But I mean, he's always been hit and miss. So he had such a strong start with Sixth Sense, but then he had a series of terrible movies. But I've never really stopped liking him. I've always thought, okay, I still have faith. I have faith. So we both decided to jump in and take a look at this show. And I got to tell you, at least from my end, we haven't really talked much about this, so I don't know.
No, I forgot it was, I remember seeing commercials for it, but I forgot it was even an option because Apple TV for some reason Plus, I have it, but I forget to look at it as an option to watch shows on. Yes. So someone reminded me, a friend of ours, Andrew, reminded me about this show and said I should check it out. And I binged it in like a day and a half or something.
Seriously. Okay. So this is fantastic. Like this is like M. Night Shyamalan back at his Sixth Sense level of storytelling. Yeah. I think it's so engaging, but it's cool because it's not, I mean, it's psychological horror, right? Like it's not straight out scary. It's not scary, but it is super creepy and you don't know what's coming and you don't know why people are behaving the way they're behaving. And it's just so well done. And it, like you said, I mean, it's so easy to watch the whole thing in one go. Like it's 10-hour-long episodes. I think 10
first season, and the second season just started. So
so that's why we're talking about it now, because season 2 just launched like a week ago. So there's only
lots of time to catch up on it for sure. But it's weird because it's got a horror element to it for sure, or even in a thriller element, but you don't really know what's going on. And there's things that you think in your head, like there's like, for instance, like a supernatural sort of aspect, but you haven't really seen a lot of it. Yeah. So you're expecting more of that to happen, and it hasn't really quite happened the way I think it should happen yet. So, like a haunting almost, or but there's other things that have happened that are unexplainable. So it's very confusing in that way.
But it's a slow burn. Like you really have to stick with it, because it's not, you don't get answers. Really, you don't get anything much until like episode 10 of season 1.
Yeah.
And then it all kind of comes together and you're like, holy, what is going on? And then it turns upside down. And it is the last episode of season 1 is fantastic.
Yeah, it's really good.
And then the first episode of season 2 is the same way. It's just, whoa, like this is not what I expected this to be. And so we don't want to give anything away. We don't want to give spoilers, because it is on right now, and you don't want to be spoiled watching this thing, because the performances are so good. Like they're just so convincing.
Yeah, it's great. There's other things too that, like, I'll mention this because it's not a spoiler, but why is everybody always drinking wine on that show?
A lot of wine. There's a lot,
but it's got to have, it's those kind of little things that has some significance, but I don't know what it is. But everyone's always drinking a glass of wine in that, and I know it's probably got a significance somewhere down the line, but I'm just not sure what it is.
And this is the thing with M. Night Shyamalan, is that he does those sorts of things. I remember reading about The Sixth Sense after it came out, and something I didn't pick up when I first watched the movie, but he put in there the color red. So anytime you saw the color red, it was a tell that Bruce Willis was not alive, like that he was a ghost.
Oh,
like
I think I might have seen
that was red that he touched. There was a bunch of things that were quite clearly red that you didn't really pay attention to originally when you watched it, but knowing that now, and if you go back and watch it, you're like, oh my gosh, like anytime there was a red thing, it was Bruce Willis interacting with it. So I feel like this might be the same sort of thing. Like maybe wine has something to do with the story, but we just don't know what it is yet. And when we find out, we're gonna be like, oh, it was right there the whole time.
And then this is a totally rewatchable show to go back and go, okay, the clues were there, but I just didn't see them at the time.
Yeah. It's so well done. And for those Harry Potter fans, it stars Rupert Grint, who was Ron
Weasley,
Ron Weasley, and
the Wheeze, as we like to call him.
The Wheeze. Nobody calls him the Wheeze.
I'm pretty sure someone called him the Wheeze in there.
Nobody's ever called him the Wheeze.
Pretty sure. Nobody called him the Wheeze. I'm pretty sure.
But he's in this, and he's great. He doesn't have an English accent. He has a really convincing American accent, and he drinks a lot. So it's like alcoholic Ron Weasley.
And and if you watch 6 Feet Under, the daughter from that is in this as well. Her name's escaping me, but she plays a news reporter, and she's like fantastic in it. So
yeah, it's great. It's great. We both highly recommend it. So if you can access Apple TV Plus,
do so.
Jump in.
For sure. And that's what's behind you. What's going on back there? You got lightsabers flying out of your head.
Yes, I do.
Children sitting on your shoulders. What's going on?
Who wouldn't want a good lightsaber flying out of your head? Everybody wants that. So we've talked about this before. Disney has launched the new era of Star Wars, and it just launched earlier in January this year, 2021. And it's all about the High Republic. So they're going way back in time, 200 years before A New Hope. So this doesn't involve the main character. Like there's no Skywalker, there's nothing, that sort of thing. But it's the sort of the era of like the high point of the Jedi. Yeah. So there's all new characters. So I was so excited about this. So I jumped right in. So the first thing that they've launched, one of the first things, it's mostly a publishing situation. So there's books and comics and that sort of thing. But one of the first things that they launched was Light of the Jedi. It's the first novel. And so I picked it up the week that it came out or soon after, and I'm just past halfway, and it is amazing. Like it is literally a page turner. You can't put it down. But it's really cool because it's all new people, but it's sort of written like A New Hope, where there's like short scenes of different things happening, and then it goes to another scene. So like for the first 100 pages or so, the chapters are like maybe 5 pages long or 6 pages, sort of like the way they were in the movie. You'd see short clips, and then you'd get like a nice circle wipe. Yeah. And then you'd go to the next. So
that's a Star Wars classic, right?
It is.
The jumping around and going from this scene to this scene to this scene.
Exactly. It's like that, but it's almost all action. So
cool.
Almost right off the top, it's like just pure action, and it's so well written, and it's really cool. And I don't think it's a spoiler because some of the covers, there are variants in the covers depending on where you bought the album, the book.
Yeah.
Yoda is in it because
cool.
Yoda's of course 900 years old by the time of Empire. So this is only 200 years before that. So he's the only name that you'll sort of recognize.
And,
well, that's not
and
true.
Yaddle, of course, is in it.
There is no Yaddle.
I'd laugh so hard if Yaddle showed up and like partway in.
If Yaddle shows up, I will let you know.
Oh, please let me know if Yaddle shows up.
But there's really cool callbacks to even the new trilogy, like the new ones, which are way far past this. But there's some things that they reference in this that come up later. It's really, really cool.
Oh, that sounds cool.
It's really good. I totally recommend it. Light of the Jedi is what it's called.
And that's the first book of this series, right?
It's the first book. Yeah, and I don't know how many there are going to be, but there's also a comic series that launched around the same time, maybe the same time, and it's like the comic version of this.
Okay.
So it's just coming out as individual issues. So that'll continue too. So I think if you could go either just the actual novel or the comic version or both. I'm gonna get when the trade paperbacks come out, I will get that
and get
too.
those instead. Yeah.
But I feel like this is important to like get familiar with the High Republic as they move into the next phase of movies and TV shows and things like that. So I'm 100% in. It's fantastic. So
oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. Good start to the new era. 100%.
I love it. And just so if you happen to be listening on a podcast, sometimes I'm referencing things that are on our YouTube version. So you can either watch us if you want to watch us on YouTube, go find Loop and Larry and find on there, because it might be weird if I'm referencing people sitting on your shoulders.
Yes.
Not actually there. It's just a background that Lawrence chose.
That's right.
Don't make that clear.
It's like one of the covers of the book it's like the artwork from the cover. Yes.
It's behind Lawrence right now.
Right.
The other big show, of course, everybody's talking about this, is WandaVision. Yes. Marvel finally putting out the first of many series that they're going to be doing. Yep. And we've been waiting for a Marvel series because Disney Plus is basically The Mandalorian's been really the only big show, in my opinion, that's come out on that channel of new material. And so this is the first Marvel show, and it is, I don't know what you think. So far, I'm super intrigued.
Me too. I love it. I think it's great. And I mean, Loop, you're a much bigger Marvel aficionado than I am. So I'm not catching the Easter eggs. Yeah. So I'm having to, go back and look at them. But did you, like, as you were watching it, did you see like references to things? And
honestly, the first time I watched it, there's a few little things I'm like, okay, I saw the sword, which he picked up the helicopter. I saw the sword on there because I know the sword's a part of SHIELD. And so I thought that's probably what that is. But there were some things on there that I'm like, you'd have to literally like pause it to see some of these Easter eggs. But it's just so cool. Like there's so many little things in that show. Like there's some posters in the background of one of the scenes that have some references to Scarlet Witch's past in the comics. And so I don't know how much of this is canon or they're just throwing these in as just sort of like little throwbacks. But and the House of M is been referenced a fair amount with little bits and pieces. And that's a comic series that Scarlet Witch lost her 2 children and she kind of freaked out, and then she changed reality where mutants basically were the main species. So it's a very cool series. But anyway, so there's a lot of that. So I don't know how much of that's going to play into this or what's happening.
I don't know. Well, I mean, so if you forget all of that, forget all the Easter egg stuff and just watch it as a show, they've nailed the classic TV sitcom. Because the first episode's based on the Dick Van Dyke Show, like the old Dick Van Dyke Show, and the second episode is based on Bewitched, like the old Bewitched shows. And I was watching with my son, and we were watching the first episode, and I said, "This is exactly the kind of stuff I used to watch when I was like a little kid," because they were still in reruns, and and they nailed it, like just the dialogue and how people interact, like forgetting about all the Marvel stuff. It's just a really cool throwback show. Like it's just really well done.
Yeah, they've done such a great job, and the supporting cast is really cool as well. And there's a few like cool people that they've thrown in there, and like Monica Rambeau, who becomes Captain Marvel, who will appear in some of the other movies, including Captain Marvel later on, and she's in it already. So that's kind of cool. They're setting some of this other stuff up because this is going to lead directly into Doctor Strange.
Yes.
So this will set up for that as well. So there's so many cool possibilities. I love how the Marvel universe it just weaves itself into all the other areas of the universe, including the movies as well. So it makes it even more exciting to watch it.
It does. And I think what's really cool is that isn't the new Doctor Strange supposed to be almost a horror movie? Like
that's the idea, is that it's supposed to have like a sort of horror element, more so, but
which makes me like think that this show is creepier than we think.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I think as it goes on, it's gonna get like really intense. Like
it's gonna get weird, I think.
Like really weird. And
it's got a Truman Show feel to me. Like there's some, because obviously there's somebody watching this from somewhere. So I don't know if she's been put under and this is something she's created in her mind. There's so many different ways this could go, but I know she's going to be in the Doctor Strange movie. So so I'm not sure if Vision's actually alive or if she's just created him in this world, or I'm not sure how that's, but we'll have to watch and find out.
We have to. But just one question for you. Is this, just to confirm, is this taking place after the snap?
Yes.
Okay.
This takes place after Endgame.
Okay, so then technically, so Vision is no longer alive. Well, not that he was ever alive, but he's no longer around in real life.
And if you have a chance, if you haven't watched the show yet, definitely check out Legends, which is they're just like little 7 or 9 minute episodes, but they focus on, there's one that focuses on Wanda, one that focuses on Vision, and just shows their journey basically up until the show. So it just sort of recaps it, like just a quick recap, but it got me excited to go back and maybe watch the ones again because it was like so cool.
Yeah,
rewatch it.
I love that they're doing this Legends, because I assume that means that when Loki comes out, there's going to be an episode.
Yeah,
like for Loki, and then for Winter Soldier.
Falcon. Yeah, they'll do ones for it. I think it's just a good way to kind of refresh, because now it's not like you only have to go back and watch 2 movies. Now there's like whatever there is 20 something movies to go back and kind of watch, but it takes you through their whole journey up until this point. So you get all the good highlights and you're like, okay, I remember that. Because there's a few things in the Vision and Scarlet Witch ones I kind of forgot about. And then I'm like, okay, I forgot about that part of it. So very, very cool.
It's really well done. I'm very, very excited about this show. Yeah, it's a good one.
Well, you know what I'm excited about is the Pop 5.
Well, yeah.
What's hot? We'll tell you what's hot. It's the Loop and Larry Pop 5.
It's been a while since we've popped anything, and let alone 5 things.
Yes.
So we thought it was time to get back into our regular routine.
Well, it's so creepy when you say it. It's so weird.
It is a little bit. Yes. So yeah, it's a new year, lots of new stuff to talk about. So we're gonna get right back into the Pop 5. We're gonna start with number 5.
Okay.
Which we just found out about a day or so ago. Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory is getting a prequel, which isn't really big, like new news, because it was announced in 2018 that they were starting to talk about this Wonka. So it's called Wonka, and it's a prequel. So it's a young Willy Wonka. But they've now given it a release date, so it's coming out March 17th, 2023. So we still have 2 years. Yeah, they've got a lot of time. But the other news that they've released are the 2 people who are sort of top of the list to play a young Willy Wonka, and that's Timothy Chalamet and Tom Holland.
Oh wow! So, okay.
Yeah, because they're the biggest sort of young actors out there right now.
I'd go with Timothy only because I feel like his roles have been a little bit weirder. Yeah. In some cases, like I think he could play because Wonka's kind of weird.
Yes.
Like generally. So it'd be interesting to see. I've seen some people who've decided like who they think should play him, and they're like picking people that are way too old.
Yeah.
To play. It says a young Wonka.
Yeah, they're forgetting that this is young Wonka.
Yeah.
So Willy Wonka's already been played by Johnny Depp, who's about as weird as you can get. That was in 2005. And then of course before that he was originated by Gene Wilder in 1971.
Like it's one of the most brilliant roles of all time.
It is. It's
He's
fantastic.
so good.
It still holds up. Like, to me,
Yep.
that movie still holds up. I still love watching it.
Yeah,
But
it's so good.
It was funny when the Johnny Depp one came out. Gene Wilder went on record saying that he hated that performance. Like, he hated Johnny Depp as so. It'll be interesting to see what they do with this new version, because Johnny Depp played it way over the top. Like, Gene Wilder was pretty, like, he wasn't over the top. He was a little bit like subdued, and he was weird.
But he had this air. It was kind of like, hey, there's this guy that he's actually kind of lovable. Like it's Willy Wonka, but then he's got this weird side to him that was like that he'd throw in these little weird sort of like side things that like where you're like, okay, this guy's not all there. Like there's something kind of weird about him and a bit twisted. But Johnny Depp played him all twisted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Gene Wilder did not like that. So it'll be really interesting to see their take on this. And hopefully they do it justice, because I it's one of my favorites. I think it's going to be great. So stay tuned. Two years to wait, but it's coming. So now moving on to number four in the.
Oh yes.
What do you got here?
Well, there's a Dungeons and Dragons. If you're a fan of that game, there's a new TV show in development, and there's also a movie coming out by the end of this year, apparently. So it's weird because Dungeons and Dragons have been around forever, but they've never really been able to tap into it.
Yeah,
which is kind of bizarre. And so the John Wick writer, Derek Kolstad, will be writing this, and he also worked on some of the Falcon and Winter Soldier as well as a writer, which is kind of cool. So the film this year is going to star Chris Pine, and it starts shooting later this year, so it should be out next year. I think it was 2000 the last full like official Dungeons and Dragons type movie came out. Yeah. And I thought it was all right at the time. It's not great. Like, and it didn't do well at all. No. And we'll talk about this later when we go into our pop capacitor, but fantasy has always struggled at the box office. Like, it's just, people just don't jump onto it. But then when you have stuff like Game of Thrones and you got things like Lord of the Rings to sort of lead the path, if you do it right, you can actually do something really cool with fantasy, but they still have to keep that sort of Dungeons and Dragons sensibilities and the type of characters that you would roll, right? Like that's the structure has to be there of Dungeons and Dragons. Like, but I don't know if they're going to do something where there's like a dungeon master, or I don't know what they're going to do, but
I'm just hoping it's a bunch of kids who go to a carnival and get on a roller coaster and go in and then time travel to this other time. That's what I'm really hoping. If they want me to pitch that, I will, because I think that's a great way to do it.
I'm sure that they're just going to redo that with a unicorn goat or whatever that was.
With Uni, come on, that would be great.
Perfect. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. I'm cautiously optimistic about it.
Yep. Well, I feel like there's been enough like Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit, and Game of Thrones type movies that there's now a level that people have to live up to. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you can't just do some like minor. It's got to be pretty major in its scope, I think.
Well, and the thing is that if they do it right, this could be a massive franchise. Like you could keep because there's so many different types of characters and missions and quests and things. Like if they do it right, it could go on forever. Yeah,
the secret of Dungeons and Dragons is you have to have a group. You got to have with a like a fighter and a magic user and a cleric and it's got to have some sort of structure like Dungeons and Dragons, at least the characters do, and then a quest of some sort that they have to be on and then go from there. So
and a unicorn
and a dragon.
Yeah.
Has to have a dragon.
A dragon. Yeah. So that's good. We're looking forward to that. All right. So let's move on. Number 3. What do we have at number 3 this week?
So number 3, we've all read Fangoria magazine. If you're a horror fan, well, they're now starting their own studios, the Fangoria Studios, which they're going to be producing films and television shows, which is cool because they report on them. So now it's cool that they're actually going to be making them. And I'm sure they have a lot of contacts and writers and makeup people and everything else, special effects, because they've been interviewing these people for years. So it's a natural step. Apparently there's new owners of the magazines, and it's a group of magazines too, because they have some others. They have Starlog as well, which will be under this banner, and Gore Zone will be under this banner. So that's going to enable them to produce some of their own stuff, which will be really, really cool.
I think that's really. I wonder if they're doing this to compete with Blumhouse, because Blumhouse seems to be like almost the go-to for quality horror movies now. I mean, at least, I mean, maybe not the best horror movies, but like right up there. And A24 Studios is doing a lot of. So it's like they're sort of like, we've got all this horror content. I'm very excited about this. It's really going to be interesting to see how they put this all together. So that's a good number 3.
That's a good number 3. What about number 2?
We got a really good number 2 as well.
Oh no! Just the way you said that, I was a little scared. But
not sound good, did it? No. Okay, at number 2 this week, Disney Plus has finally announced that they are releasing all 5 original seasons of The Muppet Show.
I love this.
On February 19th, we're going to get all 5 of the... That means we can watch the Moominshants anytime we want. Who doesn't like the Moominshants?
Were there 5 original seasons, or were there 3 and then 2 ever like later? Like I always seem to remember there was only 3, but I don't know why I think that.
Yeah, I think that there was a break. I mean, I could be wrong, but I think that there was a break. I think you might be right that there was a break between 3 and 4. But I think that, I mean, they consider all 5 of them part of the original series.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so it's all, and they're all going to be there uncut. Not that they'd have to cut anything. What would they have to cut? But and it's funny because this is one of those things that I assumed would have been there day one, because Disney's owned the Muppets for a long time. So it always seemed odd to me that we went over a year without having them on and I thought, this is really strange. Like, that would have been great content to have right away. So for whatever reason, it took as long as it did, but they are February 19th. We will finally get to see them, and I will be watching all 5 seasons.
Yeah, the cool thing about the Muppets too, on top of like it just being hilarious and great, like, because I know they have some of the other seasons on there, like the Office Muppets, you know, and they did like the sort of Office spoof and that. So it's cool this is on there, but other than just like the Muppets being awesome, it's all the guest stars, which I love, because there's like a lot of guest stars from that time period, which is like they'll be kind of dated, but there's like, I mean, I think Mark Hamill was on it at one point, and
well, the whole Star Wars, like R2D2 and C3PO.
Yeah, like it'll be it's just a time capsule of that time period. It's gonna be really cool.
And you can't forget when Kenny Rogers came on and they did the Gambler on the train, and everybody just bawled. The Muppet died. So yeah, it's gonna be such a flashback, like such a throwback to like our childhood, because I mean, everybody watched that every week.
Yeah, like pretty much anyone who was anyone, at least in that time period, was on there. Like, and it should be really cool to watch. I'm looking forward to rewatching it.
Yeah,
from the beginning.
So we've got about a month. As of this recording, we've got about a month to wait, but it's coming. Speaking of things to get excited about, our number 1 Pop 5 for this week just dropped today, the 21st of February, the day we're recording this. Apparently there's a new Game of Thrones prequel coming to HBO. There isn't yet a date for it, and there's not a lot of information out yet, because the story just broke today. But apparently it is called, and are you ready for this?
I'm ready.
Game of Thrones fans who read the books will be already familiar with this. It is called Tales of Dunk and Egg. Dunk and Egg. That's right. Tales of Dunk and Egg.
Okay, perfect. That excites me. Like,
yep.
Okay, so, I don't know what the reference is. I'm sure.
Okay, well, I will tell you, because I got a little bit of information on this. So it's based on novellas that George R.R. Martin has written. There are 3 of them so far, and he did one in 1998, and then his last one was in 2010.
Yep.
So they're short stories, and he's hoping to do more. He's hoping in total to have between 6 and 12 of these things, so the show could keep going if he keeps creating these books. But so the whole thing takes place about 90 years before Game of Thrones. So it's not hugely long time before, but it's long enough that you won't see like Ned Stark and all of those people. So it's 90 years before, and it follows the exploits of Sir Duncan the Tall, Dunk, that's Dunk, and a young Aegon Targaryen. Targaryen, Aegon Targaryen. That's egg, Aegon. So
Okay,
it's
gotcha.
Duncan,
Okay.
You got Duncan and Aegon. So he was actually referenced. So Aegon Targaryen was in the books. He's the squire to Duncan, but he later becomes the 15th Targaryen to sit on the Iron Throne. And he was actually referenced in the Game of Thrones when I think it's Aeon Targaryen. He was the one, I believe, in the House of Black, like along the wall, in the wall. He was like the older man. He was blind. He was a Targaryen. He was his brother, I believe, younger brother or older brother, something like that. So anyway, egg was referenced in the Game of Thrones in the actual show.
You sound like me trying to figure out Game of Thrones in the first few seasons.
Exactly.
Luckily, my wife had watched or read the books. I had to keep asking her who anybody was because I was so confused in the first couple seasons.
This should be much simpler for you because it's just Dunk and it's just egg.
So I'm assuming they don't die at any point in the series. Like
I'm guessing
maybe Dunk.
Was that?
Maybe Dunk kicks the bucket at some point.
He might. There is like if you. I mean, I don't want to spoil anything but there is, if you go to like Wikipedia, there are histories, so you can find out how Aegon Targaryen dies. Like he dies eventually, but I don't think that they're going to be dead during these. I don't think they're going to die during this series. So yeah, so I don't know. It's their exploits as Duncan and his squire Aegon. So I don't know if they'll be like a bit lighter. Like I don't know if it'll have a lighter tone or if it's going to be serious drama. They haven't said, but that is coming.
All right, we'll check that out. I'm sure it'll be fine. They could have picked a better title. That's all. I'm just saying that it's kind of like it's kind of weird sounding, but okay.
Dunk and egg.
Yeah, it's like.
But that's what the short stories are called. Like the novellas are called the tales of Dunk and Egg.
Yeah,
So,
I don't know how that's gonna like for a general audience. Like,
yeah, not sure.
We'll see how it goes.
You'll find out. So there you go. There is our first top five of 2021.
Oh, so exciting!
Pretty good.
Big things are already happening, and because we need to go forward here, but we also need to go back, and we're gonna do that with the pop capacitor. Let's check it out. It's the pop capacitor, and we are looking today at something called Willow. And I say something because I don't know what it was that I watched, but it is Willow. It came out in 1987. Val Kilmer and Warwick Davis was in it, directed by Ron Howard. And George Lucas was he was the writer on it.
Yep, he was.
And story concept, which apparently had this concept for this like years before.
Like something like 15 years before Star Wars. Like he had this concept way, way before the movie came out. Yeah.
So and finally they and apparently it took him a while to get the deal to be able to put this out, because at this time there's a lot of fantasy movies that had come out and basically kind of bombed. it's like I think like Never Ending Story, even like everyone knows the song in that. I don't think that movie did well. What was the one with Tom Cruise? Legend.
Oh, Legend. Yeah.
And there was a bunch at that time that just the fantasy genre just was not a hot genre. Like it just.
No, but there were a lot of them.
Like
there was Conan. There was Sword and the Sorcerer.
Yep.
Beastmaster. Like there was that was a really popular genre in the 80s. Like they just kept cranking them out. And not a lot of good ones.
Yeah. None of them really were blockbusters. Like, and this one has all the elements to be a blockbuster. I mean, like with Ron Howard directing, George Lucas attached, coming off of Star Wars, you'd think this movie would like be like a bona fide hit, but we'll talk about it and we'll see if it was or not. But right now, let's take a look at a quick trailer for Willow.
A time when a child could tip the balance between good and evil.
Why, with my powers, with the strength of my great army, can you not find one little child?
A time for an unlikely hero named Willow.
Tell her I'm not gonna let anything happen to the baby.
We gotta give that baby to somebody.
I'm somebody.
A time of scoundrels.
What goes on here?
Uh-oh.
And a time of rebels.
You are great.
From the creator of Star Wars and the director of Cocoon, Willow.
Well, there you go, Larry. I don't know. So let's jump into this.
Okay.
I don't even know where to start, but
Well, let's start by first saying I had never seen this movie. I don't know why. I don't know how that happened, but it's just one of those movies I had never seen. So because it's now on Disney Plus, I got a chance to see it. So I only saw it a couple of days ago for the first time. So I did not grow up with this movie. So, and I think that that's important to know, because I think that's what makes this movie popular. I think it's one of those kinds of movies that you had to have seen when it came out, and then you were a kid when you watched it, and then you fell in love with it. That's my take.
Okay, my take is I did see it when it came out originally, and I forgot about it almost instantly after. So I hadn't seen it since I was a kid. Like I remember seeing it like when it came out. I probably wasn't a kid. I was probably maybe,
you would have been like 17.
Yeah, around there, right? Would that be about right? Yeah, it was all right. And the thing is, I love the fantasy genre, so this is like up my alley. And I'm not going to say it's all bad. It's not. I'll just put that out there right now. But there were some problems with this movie that I had a few major issues with it that didn't make it so good. So basically, Willow's from this village. He finds this baby. The baby's being hidden because there's a evil queen. And she knows this baby eventually is going to overthrow her or take her down. So she tries to kill it, but it gets rescued. And Willow, his quest, I guess, is to, this is where it starts getting weird.
Yes. I don't know what he was playing. So I watched this with my wife who had not seen this movie either. And all the way through, both of us were like, where is he going? Like, what is he trying to do?
That's the first major problem with this movie. There's kind of two quests. So this first quest is when he's in the village, there's a sorcerer. He wants to be a sorcerer. That's his Willow's goal.
Yeah.
He can do some basic magic tricks. But there's an actual sorcerer played by Billy Barty, the great Billy Barty, who was in the village, that there's something special about it, but they don't know what. So his first quest is just to get it out of their territory and give it to a human. That's the basic idea.
Find somebody who's of the same species. Like the same,
and give it to them.
And give it to them. Just like, here you go. Here's one of yours. That was it. That's all he was intending to do. We got it. We got that part. So we understood that. It's after that, I just am not sure what he was doing.
So after that, then he ends up meeting Val Kilmer, who plays Mad Mardigan. Right. And who's like this. He's like, I'd say he's like a Han Solo character, trouble with people, and everybody's after him. He's a scoundrel. Yeah. And it's a perfect way to say it. And he becomes a hero throughout the movie as it goes. After they find him, he takes the baby, and they're like, okay, we're done our mission. We're on our way back. But then suddenly they see an eagle flying over top of them, carrying the baby, because the baby was stolen from Mad Mardigan literally, like, I guess, minutes after he left. Yeah. And he goes to another village of these brownies, which are mythical sort of like mini creatures. There, his next part of his quest is given to him by this, it's almost like a giant Tinkerbell, essentially. Basically, that he needs to get this to this one certain kingdom, which I don't think he ever did make it to this kingdom that he's supposed to make it to. No. Because he said there was a king and queen there that would take care of the baby and make sure the queen doesn't get this baby.
Right.
So his mission is to get to this other kingdom.
Yes.
He never gets to in the movie, by the way. Like, he never once, maybe he does, but I don't think so.
I don't think he ever got to it. There was no other king and queen that I remember.
So I don't know where this other couple came from that they were supposed to get there. So this is where the problems start to happen. So I will say this. Up until he gets a second quest, the movie's actually not bad. Like, it's like, okay, I'm kind of buying into it. It's like it's kind of good. As soon as those damn brownies show up, oh my God, the brownies. So the brownies are just regular people shrunk down with the worst chroma key I've ever seen.
The special effects in this movie,
and for some reason they're all French.
Yes.
And they are irritating.
And one of them was Kevin Pollak.
Yes.
Like Kevin Pollak.
Yes, I know. If you haven't seen the movie, they're sort of like, they look kind of savage like, and their hair's all like teased out with like gel, and they're full comic relief. Like it's not like a one liner here and there. It's like full out like bumbling like ridiculousness, and they're like the Lenny and Squiggy of this movie.
They
like
are.
Every time, like the one part, like Willow has this magic wand, and there's another sorcerer who's been turned into like a weasel or something, and she says all you have to do is concentrate. And of course, as soon as he goes to concentrate, the two brownies show back up again. It's like hello, and it's just wackiness once again,
and it distracts him. So instead of turning her from a ferret or whatever she is back into her human form, he turns into her goat. And then when he tries again,
and a bird at one point too,
a raven, a raven. And then he tries again to turn her into something else, and then hello, they show up, and then she becomes a goat. Like it's just like, stop it.
Yeah, because at this village of brownies, those two brownies are supposed to be the ones that are supposed to help lead them.
Part of the problem is this movie is over 2 hours long. Oh. So by the time the second part of the quest comes along, it's been like an hour. Yeah. And like he hasn't done anything yet. Like half the movie is gone, and he hasn't accomplished like any parts of his quest yet. Like, okay, when are you going to start questing? Like, when are you going to actually start accomplishing something? Come on. So I just found that nothing was going on for the longest time.
There's a lot of walking, a lot of travel to different places.
A lot of walking. Yeah. And okay, so here's my other problem with it, is that not like about content, but it was also the special effects department were the same people who created Star Wars. Like, and the technical side, like Ben Burt, I think, was in there for audio, and like it was Industrial Light and Magic that did all of the special effects. So they had already done like Star Wars, Empire and Return of the Jedi, and Indiana Jones and that trilogy.
Yeah.
And then they create this thing. It's almost like it was a weekend project for them. So like you were saying, like these brownies were so badly keyed onto the backgrounds that it was really hard to watch, and because it just took you right out of the movie. And so the special effects I just found terrible, like just not good.
I feel like the more they kind of goofed off and became bigger, like sort of like the brownies like became bigger characters, the more like, because when you're working with someone, they're a lot funnier than, if you know what I mean, if you don't know them. So I feel like the cat or the crew in that were like probably killing themselves as they were doing all this wacky stuff, but it did not translate well on screen at all. Like I wanted to swat the two of them. They were so irritating. Like that ruined the entire movie for me. Those two, like they were not funny. They weren't like they were just so irritating. Right from the beginning.
I feel like that was George Lucas's inspiration for Jar Jar Binks.
They were the Jar Jar Binks of this movie. They completely ruined it. Like they were
the same kind of character. They were a character that was like in a dramatic movie. They were like full on goofy comic relief. Not even just like the occasional one-liner to break the tension.
No, they
were just bumbling idiots like for 2 hours.
Oh God, it was so bad. I liked Willow. I thought the Willow character was cool. I thought that was all good. I didn't mind that, like the village was cool. Like I love that whole section.
Yeah, like the sets and the locations were neat. Like they all seemed fairly real. Like I mean, I don't know how much was done in a studio and how much was done on location, but it looked like visually it looked all right, except for the special effects.
Yeah, like I thought that like the backgrounds and the cinematography and everything was like amazing, and the music was actually really good.
Yeah,
I thought the music was amazing, but you can't like, it's like what they say, like they polishing a turd. Like you can't just put great music on something and it makes it better. Like it just doesn't. Yeah. And there was a few scenes like that. So in this, there's a couple scenes I got to mention. There's a scene where there's like a two-headed, which I didn't know what it was, but apparently it's a dragon.
Yeah, I didn't know that either. I read that afterwards, that it was a dragon. They kept referring to the dragon.
That was the most hideous dragon I've ever seen. That's no dragon I've ever seen. Like I've ever seen. Like that's
just because it breathes fire doesn't make it a I don't think doesn't make it a dragon. So it was a two-headed like snake thing, but it looked like their faces kind of look like old men.
in Alien, that creature that pops out, like
Yes.
like out of the stuff. That's what they look at, two of those.
Yes. Yeah,
Oh.
you're right.
Like
That's exactly-
and that whole scene, the special effects was like, it just wasn't great. Like it was
No.
very matted, like, you know, that matte key. It's
Yes.
like, you could really see it. And I realized the time period, like what the time period was, but there was other movies from that time where the creatures looked decent.
Yes.
Like Dragon Slayer, the dragon looked pretty cool in that. Like I don't
Yeah.
expect it to be perfect, obviously, because of the time period, but I thought it just didn't look great.
But for the people who are involved in this movie, the George Lucas and Ron Howard and all of the ILM and all of that, they could have created like actual physical like monster, like instead of a puppet that they had to like CG in. I mean, there was no CG, but they had to composite, composite into the frame, because it didn't work. But the weirdest thing about that was the way this dragon appears is that they're on a like a drawbridge going into this castle, and they were attacked by a troll. So there were trolls on this bridge. They killed the troll, and it was the most grotesque thing. Like that just came out of the blue. The troll like dies and kind of curls up, and then its skin splits open, and you see like its guts, and it's like this mound of like writhing like flesh, and then like tendrils come poking out of it, and you're like, what is this, a horror movie all of a sudden? This is not appropriate for kids. And then those tendril things splash into the water and grow to become this dragon. But it was so I found it so shocking. Like, because this movie is like a family type movie. Like could be for kids. And then there's all of a sudden this really gross, like it was a kind of a cool effect for people who like horror.
Yeah. Okay, I got to mention these. I've seen lots of trolls in my time. I've never seen trolls that look like apes. It literally looked like from Land of the Lost. It looked like Chukka. Like they look like a bunch of Chukkas running around. I've never seen a troll. Like did they do any research on what a troll looks like? Like I know there's different variations of them, but it looked like a monkey. Like people in monkey suits. Like it was horrible.
It was not. It literally, and they could have called it anything else. Like there was no reason for them to call it a troll. They could have given it some other mythical name, and then it would have been believable because it's some mythical creature. But when you think troll, you're like, oh, it's kind of a human shaped thing. But
or something with like a long sort of like leathery nose or something. It was just, it literally looked like the Land of the Lost outfits. Because
it wasn't. I don't think it was wearing clothes. Like it was just a hairy.
Yeah, it looked like an ape, like kind of an ape child or something.
So weird. I don't quite get what they were doing with that.
I don't know what they were doing with some of this movie at all.
I don't know.
And so the other main character is Val Kilmer, and so I feel like, just to go back for a second, I feel like Willow's arc in the movie is actually pretty good. Okay, he becomes a hero. He doesn't do anything really out of his nature that he would probably do. He does some things to show some bravery. So I think Willow was great, top to bottom.
Okay. He was, he was pretty consistent.
Val Kilmer was pretty good.
Yeah.
I mean, they had it because he didn't really show up till maybe like 40 minutes into the movie or 30. I'm not really sure where, but they had to really kind of fast track his like scoundrelism to heroism. So it took him a bit to get there. But along the way, he falls in love with Joanne Whalley, who he ends up marrying in real life.
Oh, I didn't know that. Yeah.
So he ends up, he falls in love with her, and she works under the queen. Like that's a queen's daughter.
She's the queen's daughter. Yeah.
So she's trying to get the baby to bring it back to the queen.
Yes.
And there's really not a lot of like indication that she doesn't believe in what the queen's doing.
There's none. There's no indication. She's all in. She's like, from what I got, she was all on board. Like, yeah, we got to get
for the whole thing.
We got to take it out. Yes, mother, you're right. I got to do this.
and within about 2 scenes, Val Kilmer and her character Saoirse end up like falling in love within like minutes.
Well, because he got this like love potion powder accidentally dropped on his head, so he looked over and saw
when
her.
did that happen? I've seen it twice.
Yeah.
And I did.
So there's this love, because it's these brownies have this love potion.
Oh, is that when they hit him in the head with something? I didn't know that was a love potion. I must have missed that piece of dialogue.
These brownies.
Well, that would make more sense.
But these brownies have this love potion, and they, earlier in the movie, one of the brownies accidentally gets it on himself, looks over and sees a real cat, like a live cat, and falls
I remember that.
falls in love with the cat. Okay, well, all right. So the assumption is that you fall in love with the first thing you see. It doesn't have to be your species or anything. It's the first thing you see. So anyway, later on in the movie, this brownie hits Val Kilmer over the head with his bag, and this love powder dust goes all over Val Kilmer. Well, it's like multiple scenes later when he sees the queen's daughter and falls in love with her. So he should have fallen in love with that brownie, because the brownie was the only thing.
Or Willow.
Or Willow.
That's a whole other movie suddenly.
I know, but he didn't fall. So by the time he finally fell in love, like saw the queen's, you kind of forget that he's had this powder.
I didn't even know. I remember the scene where he gets hit and they show the sparkles or whatever, but I did not put that together. That's what that was.
That's what it was. So it wasn't even that he actually loved her. He was just under this spell and like fell in love with her. But you're right. Like the problem was that she like almost instantly fell in love with him, and then she just gave up on her mother. Like there was no reason for her to turn on her mother, but by like 20 minutes later, she was fully on board with the heroes, and she was, trying to take down her own mother, and it didn't make there was no reason for her to do that.
Yeah, no, it didn't make any sense why she would suddenly like fall in love with him so quickly. And like she resisted at first, but then suddenly she's part of the entire, like because they end up joining another sort of army, like small army, and she's suddenly right in there with everybody.
Yeah,
and no one ever questions. Oh, you're the queen's daughter. Yeah. Like you've only been chasing us through the entire movie, but now it's cool. You just hang out with us now.
And the other army didn't question it. Like she should have been known across the kingdom as this evil queen's daughter. So as soon as the other army saw her, they should have been like, no, and they could have, but no,
because she was a warrior. Like she was right in the middle of all the action. Like
I don't know what happened there. They just totally decided to not write her character at all.
It was very weak character.
Yeah.
And so they get the baby, the queen does, and then she's doing some ritual, which I'm not 100% sure what she was doing. I think she was sending it to hell.
Yes.
I think the baby is, but it's a very elaborate, like it's still just killing the baby.
Yeah.
It's to do this elaborate like ceremony.
Well, and the ceremony took at least a day, because like she got the baby, and then there were several scenes of Willow and his little group giving up. They're like, well, we've lost, and they literally were like, meh, I guess we've lost. I guess there's no point in going to get this baby now. We're done, blah blah blah. And they have these long conversations about what they should do, and then it's the next day, and this ritual is still going on. Like, it would have been way faster just to toss the kid in the river.
It went on or just lock him up or whatever.
Yeah.
Like it made no sense. So the army wants to get into the castle and they don't know how they're going to do it. Yeah. That is the worst plan in this movie. So what they do is they have these giant holes where I don't know where they came from. So all the horses and everybody are hiding in these holes.
But they're holes that are in a field that are literally right in front of the gates of the castle, which means that they would have had to come and dig holes deep enough for entire horses to go into, like multiple holes, and overnight, and then cover those holes with like grass or something so that they wouldn't, like, there's no way that anybody could have like pulled that off in one night without somebody in the castle hearing them.
So Willow and the good sorceress, who he's now made into an actual woman finally, are waiting at the gate. So a few of the representatives of the army from the queen come out of the castle. So now the gates are down. They come out, and all of a sudden they're like, now, and everybody comes out of these giant holes like super awkwardly on horses, and then kind of basically because the doors are down, they go around the guards that have come out and then enter the castle. Yeah. And I'm like, how dumber is anybody in this? Like, and the holes were covered with like old tents because they had all these tents set up, which I don't know again when they set these up. And so they came out of it was just so dumb.
Yeah, like okay, if the people in the castle are this oblivious to what's going on outside, they deserve to be invaded. Like, like they don't deserve this castle.
It would not have been simpler to say, how do we get into this castle? And then Sorsha, who's her mom is the queen, say, oh, I know a secret way in there.
Yes.
Okay, there we go. We're in. Yeah. Like,
or Sorsha, what's her name?
Sorsha
could have just gone in. She's the daughter. Like, the mother wouldn't have known that she had switched sides. There was no indication.
They could have used her as a fake hostage. There's
something like that.
And their idea is to dig giant holes and put people in it. Like, this is the dumbest thing I've ever seen. Like, I'm like, as soon as it came out, I'm like, so what was the plan? Like, I couldn't, because Willow, and I quote this, we had a lot of groundhogs in my village. So basically they dug holes. And I thought, but when he says it, I thought, oh, they're going to dig a hole or somehow do something to get a tunnel into the castle. But nope.
It was horrible. Horrible writing. Horrible.
And there seemed to be, the army they had seemed to keep growing. Like, they had like only a few people at one point, and then when they stormed the castle, there's like hundreds of people. Like, I don't know.
They made some phone calls. They're just in a hole. They got nothing else to do. They just called some people up and said, "Hey, we're in the holes. Do you want to come join us in the holes? They're big holes."
We're really selling this movie if you've never seen it. But again, like, it looks good and the music's great, but the story is like something else. I don't know.
Like, I mean, I love Star Wars and I love the originals and I love George Lucas for creating them, but I have to say, I just don't think he's a good writer. Like, I really don't. Like, I mean, he wrote the Phantom Menace too, and there's some questionable stuff in those the prequels. And he wrote this movie too, and I'm like, this is not good writing. Like, it's just not well done.
And there's a lot of stuff in here that I question. Like, it could have been a lot simpler, even. Like, I don't know, and just a little bit more structured of exactly what the quest is and what they're doing.
But so part of the problem is there was nothing original about it. Like, by the late 80s, you had seen all of these like Beastmaster, you'd seen all these quest movies. So there was nothing in this quest that we hadn't seen before. So there was nothing like, oh, I've never seen that beast attack, and I've never seen those tactics used. I've never, you know what I mean? Like, everything, there was nothing surprising at all about this. Like, good triumphed over evil, and the evil queen was vanquished in a battle at the end. Like, there was nothing original about this movie, or really any of these characters. Like, they were so by the book.
and wouldn't you save the dragon, their so-called dragon, for the end?
Yeah.
Like, they could have been fighting that dragon while the other people were trying to get to the queen to stop her from sacrificing the baby. Like, there was a lot going on in that scene. The funniest part for me in that whole scene at the end, so the other sorceress is there, the good sorceress, I'll call her. I can't remember what her name is in the movie, but she at one point she has this wand, and so she starts twirling the wand, which captures the evil queen, and starts spinning her in the air, and this is her magic spell. Na 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 na. I'm like,
we laughed so hard at that.
I'm like, that is her spell? Like, because a lot of times they're like, like, they're making up the words or whatever. But just like, na 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 na.
We literally looked at each other. We're like, did she just go blah, 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 blah. That's literally what she does. Like, it was like an outtake. I bet you the crew was like, okay, that is the funny. We're gonna put that in there because that was the funniest outtake we have. It is literally like an outtake, because there's no way that George Lucas wrote in the script. Blah, 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 blah.
I wrote down in my notes, na 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 na, because I listened to it back. That's exactly what she says. Na 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 na.
It does not make any like. Like, who writes that? Nobody.
This is like, the only thing in that whole scene I gave it like the credit for is when Willow made it look like he had vanquished the baby and made it look like it disappeared. But he only used one of his basic disappearing tricks to do so. And I thought that was clever, because they brought back the fact that everyone keeps telling him his tricks aren't magic, but he actually used it at the end to actually trick the evil queen. That was the best part of the movie. I thought that was cool.
Yeah,
like, that was
a callback, because at the beginning of the movie he made a little piglet disappear. He put a blanket over it
Yeah.
toss the blanket up, pig's gone. So he did the same thing at the end with the baby, and so everybody was like, "Whoa, wow, he made the baby disappear." Yeah, that was clever. I thought that was
that was a clever part.
Yeah,
the was not.
No, it was so bad. Like, there's no way that was actually written into the script. I don't.
God.
It's so bad.
But again, at the end scene, there's this big battle going on outside. Like, so there's they're trying to stop the queen from taking away the baby, and then they're also a big battle outside. But again, it's another scene where they've used really triumphant music and really cool music.
Yeah.
For a scene that wasn't that great.
No, it wasn't. So here's the way I thought this movie was going to go, because as I started watching, because I'd never seen it before.
Yeah. Guys, mention one more thing before you get into this.
Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead. Yeah.
So at the end, Willow saves the day. He heads back to his village. So when he leaves the castle, it jumps ahead and everybody's like clapping for him because he helped save everybody. He gets home to the village and everybody starts, "Oh, it's Willow. He's back. He's back." And they all start clapping and gathering around. And I'm like, do they even know what he did? No one was with him. None of his villagers were with him. So why are they, unless they heard through the grapevine or something?
But how would they, well, who was sending messages? Like, there's no newspaper. There's no, like, how would they have gotten word from wherever he was?
Like, and these are areas they've never traveled to, because they've never even seen a human before.
No,
that was well established. That, like, when they found the baby, they knew what it was, but none of them had never even seen a human, so it was all new to them.
So there would have been nobody from his village with them to send a message back, and nobody who was with him knew where his village was. So how would they possibly have gotten information?
Yeah, because some of the villagers went with him, but on the first half of the quest, but then went back. So
yeah, they left.
So I don't know how they knew that he was a hero, because they seemed to celebrate him like he was a hero.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That part would confuse me. But anyways, go on with your.
Okay, so what I thought. So the whole point of this movie was this baby was marked. It had a birthmark on it that signified that this was the baby that was going to overthrow the evil queen and take over the kingdom, and that's why the evil queen wanted to get the baby. The baby was the least of all of the characters. Like, there was, except for the fact that they had to carry this baby. So I don't know what. So what I thought was going to happen was we were going to see this baby go into the Willow's village, and then it was going to be like 15 years has passed, and this baby is now like a 16-year-old. And then we were going to see the quest of Willow trying to work with this 16-year-old to take back the crown and, like, win the thing. And then there was going to be a battle between the queen and this girl who's now like 16 or 17, whatever, old enough to fight. And then you would have seen the baby's powers. But there was no mention of why this baby was important, other than the baby had a mark on it that said it was going to take over the queen, but the baby didn't do anything. Like,
there was no indication of any like powers, or because that would have been kind of cool even at the end in the last scene when the queen kind of had the upper hand on everybody. If something came from the baby, some sort of energy or something happened to distract her for a second, like, it didn't say, like, because the queen was vanquished, but the baby didn't do it. And it wasn't that the whole thing was that was going to be, because it wasn't the queen killed. I don't know if she was actually killed.
Yeah, I think she was killed. Yeah, I'm pretty sure she's dead.
Some sort of red energy came up out of nowhere. That part even confused me, what was actually going on in that scene. But
there was no. But yeah, the baby did. Like, it literally could have been any baby. Or
like the prophecy was the baby. It was the baby that baby, or when they grow up, was going to overthrow the queen.
Yeah, but how? Like, the baby had no powers. Like, it didn't, and the baby didn't even grow up to overthrow the queen. Like,
they overthrew her. She didn't.
Yeah. So the baby literally had nothing to do. There was no reason to have this baby in there. They could have found baby. They could have found like the queen's lost purse, and they were trying to take the purse back to her.
It would have had as much impact.
Yes. Like, the baby didn't mean anything to the movie.
That's actually a really funny way of looking at it, because you're right, because that was the whole point. But the baby, even if there was like some indication the baby had some sort of powers that scared the queen, or even the queen tried to kill it and it had some sort of force field or something about it, nothing. Like, it was just a baby.
Yeah, Yeah, they could have set something up at the beginning of the movie when the baby was in their village, where the baby moved to something with its mind, or done something. Like, they literally did nothing with this baby. So that I don't get it. I don't
know.
I don't know what they were thinking. But the whole reason that we did this movie today is because Disney Plus has announced that they're going to be doing a Willow TV series.
Yeah.
So we thought, okay, great. Well, we'll take a look at Willow. We'll see, and it'll be great. But I have no idea what. So here's my thought. Mark my words.
Oh God. Okay.
This Willow TV show is going to be better than the movie.
Pretty much, I can guarantee that. The static, the color bars of a TV will be better than this movie. I read somewhere that this will focus on the baby, like grown up.
Okay.
Like that. That's what I have heard.
So maybe they realized after all these years that, we didn't actually do anything with the baby. Maybe we should finish the story and tell people why the baby was so important, because there was no indication that this baby, that makes sense. That's what we thought, is that the baby is grown up. It's, in her 20s or whatever.
Yeah.
It was a boy or a girl?
Girl. It was a girl. Yeah.
So she's grown up. And
I've totally lost so much interest in the baby. I was like, I don't even know what it was anymore.
I don't know. But Warwick Davis is going to be back.
Yeah.
For the show. I don't think Val Kilmer. I can't remember if they said Val Kilmer is back or not.
I don't know.
I don't remember. But anyway, so he will be back as Willow. So there'll be something there. And I based on the way Disney Plus is doing their TV properties now, I have like a lot of faith that this could be pretty cool, because there is a cool story in there. They just did not flesh it out.
No, it was very bizarre. So do you think this movie holds up?
Nope.
Okay, because I was gonna say I loved it. It was great.
No, you weren't. You were not.
No, I honestly don't think this holds up. Like I've seen, like, Sword and the Sorcerer holds up better than this movie does. Like it's like,
well, and I think part of the problem is that this movie has become kind of legendary. Like, it's become like a cult classic. Like,
and not to put it down to people that do like it, and like maybe because there's a lot of movies there's movies I don't like that people love. Like it's to each their own. Because I know there's people that probably grew up with this movie and absolutely love it. Like, and
I think that's it. Like, I think if you were the right age, if you were like 10 years old and you saw this in the theater, it would have been pretty cool. But I think watching it now as adults, it just doesn't hold together at all. Like it really.
And I love this genre, so that's why. Like, I did enjoy the first while. I thought this is actually not bad. Like up until the brownies showed up, and I just want to kick those things. I want to drop kick them. They're so annoying. Like I've lost all respect for whatever his name is, Jason Pollock or whatever his name is. Like,
Kevin Pollock.
Pollock. Like I just like I can't. Like it's so dumb.
I feel like that's probably one of the roles he doesn't talk about much.
I would hope not. I don't know. Maybe he thinks it's because he could return. Is he still alive? I don't even know.
Yeah, Kevin Pollock. Yeah.
So like he could still be back in it as the brownies. Like,
I guess. I don't know. But I mean, we know right off the top the CG is going to be like infinitely better.
Oh yeah,
when they do the show. So if they have dragons and fairies and brownies and whatever, they're actually probably going to look really cool.
Yeah.
And doing that. And Warwick Davis is a great actor.
Yeah, I love Warwick Davis.
Yeah, and he's gotten better over the years. So
he was young when he did this movie.
He was really young.
Yeah, like I mean, he was great.
Yeah, so I have faith that he is going to do a good job. I think the CG and the sets and all of that are going to be spectacular. They just really need to work on the story.
The story is the big thing. I just have a question because I don't know the answer to this. Maybe somebody does. They own Willow now, right? Like it's not a property of George Lucas.
No, it's not. And in fact, when you watch this on Disney Plus, they've actually changed the opening logo. Because if you watch clips or the trailer or whatever for the original trailer on YouTube, it had the original Lucasfilm, which is just text that just says Lucasfilm Limited.
Yeah.
But now when you watch it on Disney Plus, Disney has taken the new Lucasfilm logo and put it on the beginning.
Oh,
so
wow.
they've rebranded the movie with their own new Lucasfilm branding.
Isn't that funny? They'd go back and like. that was on somebody's schedule. Oh, today I'm going to be replacing the Lucasfilm logo on Willow.
Yes, and they did, because when I first turned it on, I was like, oh wow, they've got the new logo on there. And then I saw the original trailer. I'm like, nope, that's not the way it used to look.
Yeah.
So yeah, they own it. They've stamped their they've stamped it. It's theirs.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So well, I think we can put Willow to bed. I think.
Yeah, sure.
Never to be spoke of again in the history of movies.
Not until the TV show comes out, and then we'll talk a lot about it.
But yeah, I will check out the TV show just to see like if they've improved on it, or like just because I like Warwick Davis, I'll give it a shot. The show,
Absolutely.
But the movie, I don't know. I think I've seen enough of it in my lifetime now. I can. I'm safe to say that I'm done with it. I think.
Yeah, we can move on.
So thank you so much for listening to our podcast, and those that have continued to listen, we appreciate it. And thank you if you're watching us on YouTube right now, we appreciate you doing that. Make sure you like and subscribe, and you'll get the notifications when a new podcast shows up, because you never know when we're doing it. Today we decided, hey, let's do a podcast.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's throw this together.
We are pretty consistent with every 2 weeks, at least. That's our plan.
We try to be, for sure.
Yeah, so every 2 weeks you should get something new.
And also make sure you check us out on our socials, and that's where you'll see our promos, and you'll know a new show is going to come up. So thank you so much, and from Larry, from Willow, and myself, we'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Produced by Matthew C. Loop and Lawrence Simner. A Loop and Larry production.
Bueller.
He likes it. Hey, Mikey.
Bueller.
Bad news. Fog is getting thicker.
And Leon's getting larger.
Inconceivable.
Brian's right. It's an elf.
Wax on.
Does Barry Manilow know that you raid his wardrobe?
Oh, Captain, my captain.
Life moves pretty fast. You don't stop and look around once in a while, you could miss it.
Wax off.